Hi everybody. Today I just want to spend a few minutes trying to get a little bit of footage of my Congo Tetras in here spawning. This is my 125. I sometimes call it my African tank. I used to have this 40 breeder that is now my black ghost knifefish tank. I used to have set up as my pseudo-African tank, and eventually as all the fish outgrew it, I moved them into this much larger 125. So I still sort of think of this as my African tank. It's all the same inhabitants, it's just a much larger tank. But they used to spawn in there all the time, and now they spawn in here all the time. Sorry for the tennis match video here. It's going to be tough to get them for any length of time in one spot, and by the time I pan down to one end of the tank, they're going to be back at the other. They do dash back and forth quite a bit. So I'm trying to get them in a spot where we can actually really see them. And what I'm really hoping to get is a little bit of the actual spawning activity itself. What we're seeing is the display activity. This is the males darting and dashing around and showing off how pretty they are. And eventually, if I can find a couple, we will see some females that will line up against a rock or against a piece of wood, and they will wait for a male. They'll line up side by side, and they'll more or less sort of dance together and then flick apart. And as they flick apart, they scatter eggs everywhere. So I shot around the world update this morning, and I talked about it a little bit. I've never quite been able to catch them, or I've never been able to actually see any babies. I've seen them spawn a million times. They do this all the time. Very, very common to see these spawn. It's one of the actual things that I talk about when I suggest buying these. Is you will always get a lot of really cool activity like this because they do this all the time. It's very, very common. So I've never seen any babies as a result of it, though. This end of the tank is where they often come, and I'll give you a little teaser to another video I'm working on. I've got my tank cam set up right now, so we are trying to get some of this activity a little closer and around that wood and rock work there, where it's a little more likely that we'll see some actual spawning behavior rather than just this display behavior. But once again, we're going to swing back to this end of the tank, because this apparently is where the activity is going to be for the time being. Like I said, I've never actually had any babies develop. They are egg scatterers. They don't lay their eggs on anything. So they're really, really, really tiny little eggs when they do scatter them. You've got to look really closely to even see them. And then I've got this Elephantnose fish here who can get down into all the little nooks and crannies, and he's having a field day today anyway. He always does. I never really worry about feeding him specifically, and one of the reasons I don't is because I know he gets tons and tons of eggs from these Congos. They do this frequently. So the Loaches can get down into some nooks and crannies as well to get to the eggs, but you would think with as much stuff as I've got in this tank, some of these little tiny eggs would get into places where they couldn't be eaten, if nothing else down in the substrate. Although again, this Elephantnose fish is very good at getting down into the substrate. They use that. It's actually their lower lip. It looks like an elephant's trunk or a proboscis or something, but it's not. It's actually their lower lip that sticks out like that, and they use that to sort of root through the substrate. So they can get a lot of them, but I can't imagine all of the eggs get eaten, and I can't imagine that none of them are actually viable. So one of these days, maybe someday, we'll see some little baby Congos swimming around in here. I think we just got a little bit of the activity that I'm looking for right here. Maybe we'll get to actually see the egg release when it happens. It seems to be the female that initiates it. She lines up, and I'm not really sure if the males just decide who's going to line up with her, or if the displaying is just territorial. I don't really know how they decide who's who, because it seems pretty random, and it seems like everybody gets a go. So there's the female lining up against the rock again. But it doesn't seem like there's any sort of dominant male. They don't pair off or anything like that. It just seems like pretty much a spawn party for most of the day when they do this. And it'll probably be a week or two before we see it again. But within a week or so, we'll be seeing this type of behavior again. They just do this a lot. They're like little bunny rabbit, fish version of bunny rabbits. So I guess we're not actually going to get the footage I'm looking for, at least not in this video. Maybe we'll have gotten something good on the GoPro and we'll be able to do a really cool tank cam for this. But I'm going to wrap this up. We're already over 5 minutes in, so I think that's giving you a good enough look at what these guys look like when they're spawning. So go ahead and subscribe, that way you won't miss the stuff I'm working on right now. As I said, we're working on a tank cam video, and that's going to be pretty cool, so we'll see what we got on that one, and you don't want to miss it. So thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you real soon on the next one.